this video, I'm going to demonstrate the joining hem step in my First Crocus top. I did a mini version here to represent the back hem and the front hem. I had worked my back hem first and then transferred the stitches to a stitch holder. And I'm using the barber stitch holder cords here as my holder. And I have my front hem stitches on my circular. It's ready to start the joining step. So let me go ahead and start that step. So that section starts with saying to work our typical edging, which is to slip 2 stitches purlwise with yarn and back. Let me just move this up a little bit. Go. So holding the yarn in the back, I'm going to insert my right needle purlwise into the stitch and slip it and do the next with the second stitch. And then it says to knit to the last front hem stitch. So I will go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I have 1 stitch left now on my front hem, and it says to slip the last stitch purlwise, again holding the yarn in the back, so keeping the yarn in the back, I'm just going to slip that last stitch. Now at this point, we are not going to turn the work like you typically do. Instead, it now says to place the held back hem stitches onto the left-hand side of the needle, so onto this needle, with the right side facing. Let me explain this part. If you had placed your back hem stitches on a stitch holder like I did here, you'll just want to transfer them from the holder onto this left needle here. Now, if you had instead just left them on a circular needle instead of on a stitch holder, then you could skip over this step and instead just continue the joining part by knitting the stitches right off of the circular holding the back stitches. But in this demo, because I had transferred them onto a holder, I am going to then put them onto this left needle here of the same circular holding my front stitches before we continue with the joining part. So let me show you how I do that with these stitch holder cords. What I'm going to do, let me just move this over here. I'm going to slide my stitches this way so that the end of my stitch holder cord, I just have a little bit shorter end here. I am going to take my left needle here. I'm going to attach the barber cord to it. And it's silicone, so it just sort of slides in there, and I apply some pressure, and then I usually go like this to make sure that it's on there snugly, which it seems like it is. And then I gently start moving the stitches from the cord. I slide them onto the needle, and you just want to make slow movements here. If you're too aggressive, sometimes it can pop off. So it is a lot easier to just go a little bit slowly here and gentle. So I'm just moving all of those stitches. Okay, so now they are all on this left needle. I just take the cord off by popping it like that, and I'll put it aside. So now I have my front hem on this side, and I have my back hem now transferred onto this left needle. So now we can continue. So now the pattern says to knit 1 from the back hem stitches. So I'm going to pick up my front hem. That's where our working yarn is still attached. And I'm going to take my left needle and I want to knit 1 from the back hem. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my needle just like this and knit 1. And it's to be expected that this stitch is going to be a little bit loose. What you could do is you can even take the tail from the back hem and cinch it a little bit, just like that. But it's to be expected to be a little bit loose. Then it says to pass the slip stitch on the right needle, which was the last of the hem stitches, over this knit 1. So all that means is we're going to take our left needle and we're going to insert it into the second stitch in on the right needle, because this was the last hem stitch. And we're going to lift it up and over the last stitch, that was the stitch that we just knit, and off of the right needle. Then it says to knit to the last back hem stitch. So then I'm just going to start continuing to knit across my back stitches. Now, before I get too far, I'm just going to stop just so I can show you what this is looking like. So we've joined our one side together. And again, it's going to look a little bit loose over here. Don't be concerned, because we do have our tail from our back hem left here, and we can use that to cinch up any looseness that may appear when we're weaving in ends at the end. So now I'm just going to go ahead and, as I said, the next instruction was just to knit across the back to the last back hem stitch. Okay, so we've just about reached the last stitch on the back hem. Okay, so here we are. And so then it says to slip the last stitch purlwise with yarn and back. So again, keeping the yarn in the back, I'll just slip that stitch. Now we've reached the actual joining part. We're going to bring the ends of the needles together so that we can work in the round. So all that means is that you're going to take the front hem. So see on this left needle, our front hem stitches are back over here. We want to slide them towards the tip of the needle, just like that. And so it might mean sort of shimmying the rest of the stitches as well, just like that. So then we're going to be ready to join in the round. The important part right here is that we're not twisted. So before we actually go ahead and knit that next stitch to join, I recommend sort of placing the work down. Now, this is a mini version of the sweater. So obviously you're going to have a lot more stitches on the needle than this, but the goal is, as you're looking at all your stitches, that everything is going in the same direction here. So you don't want to see, if let's say things had gotten sort of, I'll give you an example, if something had gotten twisted kind of like that and you were to join, you would have this big twist here. So that's why you want to make sure that all of the stitches here on the needle and the cable part, they're all going in the same direction, just like that. Okay, so once I am feeling confident that I have no twists, I'm on the back hem. I was at the end of the back hem and I'm attached the working yarn over here. I am going to knit one from my front hem here that's on my left needle. And often this first stitch here is going to feel a little bit tight. That's to be expected. So I'm going to knit one. And then just like we had done on the other side, I want to insert my left needle into the second stitch in on my right needle. This was the last stitch that we had slipped of the back hem stitches. And I want to lift it up and over and off of the right needle, just like that. And then I'm going to pull on my working yarn a bit just to tighten things up. And so what that does by slipping that stitch over, that just helps to reinforce the sides a little bit. So now our hems are officially joined together. So we are working in the round. I will place a beginning of round marker now on my right needle, and I'll be ready to continue working as instructed. I'm going to go ahead right now and just knit one stitch just to keep that beginning of round marker now in place so that we can take a look at everything. At this point, you want to check again that your piece is not twisted. And so long as everything looks good, then you can just move on to the rest of the instructions. I would advise that after you work one round after joining, that you double check again that your stitches aren't twisted. If you suspect you may have a twist, but it's hard to tell just because of the number of stitches you have on the needle, because again, in this little demo, it's easy because I'm on a smaller circular, I don't have as many stitches, but in a larger sweater, it may be a little trickier. So if you can't tell, and if you're nervous that you suspect you might have a twist, one tip I have is that after you have worked one round after joining, you can transfer half of your stitches onto an extra 32-inch circular. And this way you'll have half your stitches on one long circular, half on another, and you can spread your stitches out more. And this can help to double check that you don't have any twists. Hopefully seeing a visual of this process for my First Crocus top has been helpful. Happy knitting!